College football is over, the NFL is winding down, and as we turn our attention to the ice and hardwood until Sunday, January 22nd, we are slashing NBA, college basketball, and NHL season passes from $4.59 all the way down to $2.99 with no coupon needed. This special price locks in your favorite handicappers in the sport of your choice through the championship for pennies on the dollar versus buying daily packages. And since the price will remain $2.99 through midnight on January 22nd, the earlier you buy, the more days you get included at no additional cost. How much are you saving? College basketball comes to just $3.55 per day through March Madness, and the NBA and NHL discounts come out to just under $60 per month to lock in your favorite handicapper through the finals or Stanley Cup. Go to your favorite handicappers page at WagerTalk and or Sports Memo and lock in your sports through the championship for only $2.99 each. If you want to combine handicappers or multiple sports, email us and we can work out an even more significant discount for you.
Welcome, everyone, to Inside the Distance. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. UFC is back, gentlemen. It's a great feeling after what felt like forever, but we've got a very intriguing card and a very, very intriguing main event. Imavov versus Strickland. Strickland coming in off of short notice and a motorcycle wreck. So always it's always something with Sean Strickland. One of my friends texted me and was like, "Do you think he's taking this fight so he can buy a new motorcycle?" And I was like, with Sean Strickland, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
Definitely not out of the realm.
So joining me, as always, Kyle Anthony from WagerTalk.com, Matt Kowalis from SportsMemo.com. We're going to get to our Parlay Buster, our heads-up pick, our fight we think will not go the distance or will go the distance. We'll do our fights to watch. Normally, guys, we start off with the classroom. What did we learn from the last event? But that was so long ago. We're just going to jump right into the main event. Kyle, I'm coming to you first. It's hard to say what shape Sean Strickland is going to be in, and we've seen some cardio issues from Imavov. Very, very intriguing fight. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is definitely some interesting moving parts to this one. Like I said, he's a wild man, so you never know what his reason is even fighting, for God's sakes. But I think the one thing here, when you're looking at it, even before getting into it, was that I actually really liked Imavov against Kelvin Gastelum. Not going to dive too much into why or all these other things, but I thought one of the things that he would be able to do is really bully Kelvin, bully him, use his physicality, kind of really, really bring it to him. And Kelvin's not an easy guy to knock out, but I thought inside the distance, really laying it on Kelvin. I'm not too big on him anymore. Thought it was going to be a good spot. Now things have changed, and I think this is actually, I guess we'll see about the motorcycle accident, but this is a tougher matchup for Imavov, absolutely, compared to what it would be against Kelvin Gastelum here. And Imavov is a big guy. He's rangy. He's got some power. He's a guy that is very free-flowing, very relaxed when he's in the pocket. He definitely allows the fight to kind of come to him, but then he could really pour it on when he needs to. Slick boxing, a lot of good things that he does do there. The one big thing, though, is that we have seen for him is that he is very explosive early. He's the kind of guy that can be real explosive. Again, he can be free-flowing and very relaxed, but when he needs to, he has that. He can really push forward. We've seen him knock out a couple of guys where it comes to Edmund Shabazian, Ian Heinisch, two guys who, not highest level guys, but two guys who was able to go out there and get that knockout victory. Now, I think the thing that really, really sets up very difficult for Imavov is the fact that this is a 5-round fight. And yes, he's not the short notice guy in this situation, but we have seen him after the second round really start to tick down in just overall volume, how slick his boxing is. His technique kind of starts to drop off a little bit, and 5 rounds sets up very nicely for Sean Strickland. And the thing about it is he's very economical with his output, with his cardio, and I kind of use the way that Sean Strickland fights is kind of the way that Nate Diaz throws punches, which I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but basically not throwing 100% power. He's very calm. He's very relaxed. He throws about 75% and just touches his opponents, touching, and kind of being on the scorecards, piling up over the 5 rounds and looking for the victory there. But I think it can get dicey early for Strickland. And, can he take the shot? Can he take the punch? I mean, he's only lost to some pretty high-level guys overall for Sean Strickland here. And I think the big thing for him also is weaponizing his cardio, weaponizing his pressure, pushing forward. I think those are the big things that are going to help him in this spot here. So for me here, if I'm taking a side, I got to take Sean Strickland. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel great about it. But if I got to pick, I think that he has the experience. I think he's got the cardio. And I think early it can get dicey, but later to, 4th and 5th round, I think Sean could possibly get a finish or just win on the scorecards. But I do like Sean Strickland in this spot.
Kyle, if you were kind of coaching Imavov and you have this, I mean, this is a pretty different style of fighter to what he was training for with Gastelum. How would you think the coaches are telling Imavov what to do? Like, go for it early or save your tank? What do you think the camp is doing with Imavov in this? Sean Strickland's 3 out of his last 4 fights have been 5-round fights. They say, well, maybe he hasn't been training for it. I would say he has been training for it for the last year and a half or so. What do you think Imavov's strategy is going to be to deal with this gas tank of Strickland?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think when it comes to the Kelvin side, what he was going to do, I think he had to push for it. I think he was able to bully him. Kelvin can take a shot, and I think that would have been part of it, kind of pushing the pace a little bit earlier. I think that would work better for him. But to your point, it's a different strategy. It's a different setup for him. He can't go out there and just think he's going to just run through Strickland. Again, Strickland is going to be able to do enough. And I think also Strickland moving forward and keeping Imavov on his back foot is going to be difficult for him. Imavov wants space. He wants space to work his striking. And again, that's where he's free-flowing, is where he's in space. And I think that's where Sean Strickland, smothering, keeping offense, high volume, keeping in his face. I think this is going to be a very different situation. I think early it can be dicey, but I still think through the 5 rounds, Sean can pick up 3 rounds or find that finish, because it has been ugly, I thought, looking in those 3rd rounds against Buckley, where Imavov did great early and he looked sloppy as could be against Buckley. So I think there's openings there for Strickland to get the victory.
Matt Kowalis, sportsmemo.com, coming to you. What do you make of this fight? Imavov and Strickland. Strickland coming off this. This is the 2nd main event in a row he's going to be taking on. So kudos to him for coming in and saving this. How do you see this fight playing out? You believe you're muted there, Matt. Matt, you're muted.
Matt.
Yep, good now. Sorry,
there
guys.
we go.
You probably said some amazing things, so just
I did. I'll repeat all the amazing things I said. What I said basically was Kyle had some great points, but I'm actually going opposite here. I'm actually going with Nassourdine Imavov in this fight. So Sean Strickland and Nassourdine Imavov face off at the main event for UFC Fight Night this Saturday. Sean Strickland, obviously a fill-in for Kelvin Gastelum, and Sean Strickland is now 25-5, coming off a 2-fight losing streak against Alex Pereira and Jared Cannonier. And as for Imavov, he's now 12-3, riding a 3-fight win streak with 2 knockouts in the process on top of that. Coming into this fight, I personally think this is a tougher spot for Sean Strickland. Coming in on short notice, the holidays might mean he enjoyed some cocktails or something along those lines. But on top of that, I do think Strickland is going to come in shape. He's always training. He's always sparring, things of that nature. But this is a bout that is going to be at 205. So Sean Strickland can easily make the weight. On top of that, take that information how you will. But for me, I still think Sean Strickland is a little gun shy after that brutal knockout against Alex Pereira. I didn't think he was that impressive against Jared Cannonier. And, for me, with the short notice fight, I actually think Strickland's kind of easy to figure out. He comes forward, he throws straight jabs, he likes to toss in that right hook, and he messes with the high guard generally the entire time. He's known for the forward pressure, constantly throwing the 80%, 90% combinations. To Kyle's point, kind of like Colby Covington, averaging 5.59 strikes per minute and receiving around 4.18 strikes in return. And as for Imavov, he can do a little bit of everything, and I think he's the more powerful striker in this bout, and I think he's the more powerful opponent, especially at 205, now going against Strickland again. Imavov doesn't usually incorporate the takedowns all that much, averaging 0.95 takedowns per bout. And it's something, though, that can be in his back pocket if needed. Strickland does have solid takedown defense at 83%. So I do think this will be something more standing. And I actually do give the odds to Imavov there. Again, I think Strickland is somewhat of a more basic fighter. He likes to throw the jabs. He likes to throw the hooks, high guard. And I think that's something that Imavov can break down potentially with his power. I want to see how Strickland responds after taking a solid shot from Imavov or something along those lines. Because again, going back to that Pereira bout, I think he's a little gun shy, and I think he's just one of those fighters who's willing to take any fight that comes into his lap. Again, he got in that motorcycle accident. He might want to go out and buy a new motorcycle or something along those lines after this. So I think this is a dangerous fight for Sean Strickland, losing 2 in a row. He's facing a up-and-coming opponent in Imavov on top of that. And I think he's a really dangerous opponent, again, knocking out 2 guys in his last 3 bouts. And I think Strickland could be a little gun shy here. So for me, I'm actually going to go the opposite. I'm going to go with Imavov.
Now you're muted.
You're muted.
Oh my gosh. Can you hear me now?
Right back.
Is that better?
Right back at you.
Yeah,
So
anything
easy
you
to
can do,
forget.
I can do better. Oh, you think you're the only one that can mute yourself. Yeah, I can't disagree with what you guys say. It's such an intriguing fight. I would find it hard to place a substantial bet on one of the sides. I do think this fight goes the distance here with Strickland. You look at Strickland's fight outside of the Pereira fight. Split decision against Cannonier, split decision against Jack Hermanson, decision against Uriah Hall, decision against Jotko, and Imavov's gas tank is a huge, huge question mark, but I got to be honest, I have some pretty big questions about Sean Strickland. It seems pretty quick to take a fight, especially coming off of 2 losses. I wonder if he's getting back in the ring or back in the octagon just a little bit too soon. There's been jokes about how he's kind of said behind closed doors, I'm not in shape. I've just been eating pizza. That's why I need to do this at a catch weight. And it's really, really strange if you read some of these quotes. We know Sean Strickland is a completely different cat. For better or for worse. For better or for worse, I think Imavov is going to take it easy in the first few rounds. I think he knows if he gasses out, Strickland pulls away late. But at the same time, I'm just not sure Strickland has finishing ability in this fight without a full training camp over the holidays. Matt, you really went out on a limb to maybe say that Strickland might have had a few cocktails over the holidays. I think that's a lock when he didn't have a fight coming up. I have no strong opinion on the side. I guess I will slightly lean Imavov because I don't know if I'm 100% on board with Strickland this short of notice, but I do think this one goes a distance. I think we get another Sean Strickland fight that goes to decision. And I mean, take out that Alex Pereira, and his last 2 fights have been split decisions. So both really, really close. Should be interesting, and certainly stylistically, kudos to both of these guys. I mean, Imavov didn't have to take this. Strickland certainly didn't have to get in there. So big shout out to both those guys. I'm sure Dana White and UFC are taking care of these guys. Great stuff from Kyle Anthony at WagerTalk.com, Matt Kowalis at SportsMemo.com, and I am Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Gentlemen, we're going to go into our fights to watch. These are fights that are very intriguing to us. Maybe we got a good storyline. Maybe we've got a good betting angle. Matt, I'm going to come to you first. I'm so happy you picked this one. I can't wait for the breakdown. Talk to us about Dan Ige and Damon Jackson.
Yeah, so I love the looks of this fight. I think stylistically it's a great matchup. And, Damon Jackson's riding a nice win streak, and Dan Ige desperately needs a win here, So Dan Ige and Damon Jackson face off at UFC Fight Night this Saturday. And for Dan Ige, he has won one fight in his last 4 and has lost against some impressive fighters like Josh Emmett, the Korean Zombie, Evloev. And, this is a fight for Ige, and I believe it's so interesting because he desperately needs it. He was one of the top prospects back in the day for the UFC, was riding a nice win streak, and now he's had a bit of a skid. And, I don't think Damon Jackson is the softball that a lot of people think. As for Damon Jackson, he's 22-4 overall, has won 4 fights in a row, and he's one of those guys where you kind of look at him and you're like, hey, this guy looks like a normal person. He's kind of balding, this and that. I'm going to ride the other guy. He's going to kick his ass. And then Damon Jackson comes out and wins the fight. And I think that's kind of why Dan Ige was the underdog in the beginning, and now he's the favorite on top of that, So as for Damon Jackson, his specialty is definitely his grappling. They call him the leech for a reason, averaging 2.6 takedowns per fight and 2.1 submissions on top of that, As for Ige, he's been taken down 13 times in his last 3 fights, and I believe that's the clear weakness coming into this bout. Damon Jackson on top of that, he did knock out Pat Sabatini, who's a solid prospect on top of that. So he's shown that there is a little bit more than just his grappling, okay? So when looking at Ige, I believe his clear advantage is going to be the striking. He's averaging 3.80 strikes landed per minute and is absorbing 3.56, But with that being said, Ige has been outstruck in 4 of his last 5 bouts, okay? So he's really not winning that side of it either. So I think a lot of people are really falling in love with Dan Ige's old power. He's exciting, the striking ability. And for me, I'm kind of on the side of Damon Jackson here, Even when Ige was on his 6-fight win streak, 2 of those were by split decision, and not one of those 6 fighters has had a winning record since losing to Ige. So kind of subpar competition on top of that. And, again, I think a lot of the hype comes down to his aggressiveness, his toughness, the striking style, when on the other hand, Jackson is just kind of one of those low-key guys who is very good at grappling. I feel like he has improved steadily with every single fight on top of that. So for me, I'm actually going to go with the underdog here, and it's going to be Damon Jackson. I think the leech takes advantage here, gets Ige on the ground, and figures a way to win this bout. So for me, it's going to be Damon Jackson as the fight that I featured today.
Matt, it looks like Damon Jackson is now just slightly plus money. Is this a fight maybe we can wait closer to the event time, as it seems like money just kind of keeps slowly creeping in on Ige, and we get a better line on Damon Jackson at even more plus money?
Yeah, I personally think so, because for the average UFC fan who just opens up the app on a Saturday and looks at these 2 fighters, you're going to choose Ige, majority of the time. And he's more of a popular name. He's been around. You see him probably in more UFC events and stuff like that as well. And I think that's what a lot of the average fans do. They see a familiar face. They've seen their fighting style before. It's exciting. It's kind of electric. So that's the guy they want to side with. When in reality, I do think Damon Jackson is going to be a nice underdog pick in this bout. And again, to your point, Andy, as it closes into fight night, I think that's only going to get better.
Great fight, Dan Ige and Damon Jackson, looking to cash in on Damon Jackson at the plus money.
I mean, look at his picture. Come on, people
are
going to take Ige. Come on.
That's how we do our tapping now. We just look at pictures.
You were very kind when you said he's kind of balding. You very, very generous with that, Matt.
Yes.
Yeah. So, great stuff from Matt Kowalis at sportsmemo.com. You can get all of his plays and UFC plays at sportsmemo.com. I am going to I'm interested in watching this Charles Johnson versus Jimmy Flick fight. Crazy line movement. I mean, the very, very opening line was Charles Johnson barely a favorite, and now we're looking at him as a massive favorite, over minus 300, closer to minus 350. And Charles Johnson had 3 fights in 2022. He had a championship fight in LFA that he won. Made his debut short notice against Makayev, where he lost in unanimous decision. He did not get finished. He showed really, really good defense. I thought he put on a pretty surprising display against Makayev, and then he wins the split decision. Some people say that was controversial. I didn't think it was that controversial. I thought Charles Johnson won. And then we go to Jimmy Flick. And Jimmy Flick is I was trying to think of a comparison. And the Jimmy Flick supporters remind me of like that really snobby craft beer fan who thinks that they're just like, oh, I like sour beers and I like really strong IPAs. That's who like loves Jimmy Flick. Like he was this big prospect. Okay, congratulations. He got a submission on Contender Series, and then he submitted Cody Durden in his debut. That was over 2 years ago. And you just hear, oh, Jimmy Flick's back. Oh, he's going for the submission. It's like, well, he hasn't really beaten anybody. He hasn't done anything to deserve this accolade. I think the line properly reflects it. It just reminds me of somebody talking about like a super strong IPA, and it's like, dude, that beer tastes like a car bumper. It's not impressive. Like, congratulations. So I'm so not in on Jimmy Flick. Getting a submission in round 3 on Contender Series does not impress me. Submitting Cody Durden doesn't impress me. What does impress me is Charles Johnson being in shape and fighting 3 times in 2022, and Jimmy Flick being off this. We just don't see these guys coming in off of over 2 years, off of the circuit, coming back in. I read a couple things about Jimmy Flick's personal life that I will not get into, but let's just say I don't think he's back because he completely loves the sport. I would say a payday sounds pretty good to him right now. So obviously you're not going to bet on Charles Johnson, straight up at minus, 350, depending on your book. I do think this is a strong parlay piece. I don't believe in this. That being said, Jimmy Flick could surprise me and, find an armbar or a triangle or something. But based on that Makayev fight, I believe Charles Johnson is going to be able to defend it. And I just don't think Jimmy Flick is going to have too much for Charles Johnson. I think Charles Johnson is kind of for real. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be a champion any day, but I think he can, have a few good years in the UFC. So give me Charles Johnson. I'm excited to watch it, and I fully expect Jimmy Flick to lose, and then I will be very excited to check Twitter and see all the excuses for why Jimmy Flick lost. Kyle, coming to you. I'm very glad that you changed your fight. That you were gonna. You had one fight, and I was like, really, that one? So talk to us. Okay, all right.
In my defense, it was. I thought I was gonna have a play on it, and then I realized one of my things for New Year's is I can't bet on dumpster fire fights, so I backed out, and we're gonna talk about something else instead.
I'm going to tell on you. Kyle was going to talk about Raquel Pennington and Catalin Vieira. Of all the fights, he was going to talk about it.
Listen, this is not what I'm going to talk about, but I think Catalin Vieira goes out there and gets the win. And then I looked more into it. I got a little nervous about it, so I didn't end up pulling the trigger on it, so I shifted over to something else to talk about. But, yes, thank you for telling on me, Andy. I appreciate that.
Cooler heads prevailed. So tell everyone. Tell everyone what fight you did finally decide on, because I'm interested in this one too.
I put my big boy pants on, and now we're talking about a real fight. The fight I'll be talking about here is Umar Nurmagomedov versus Hani Barcelos here, and reason we're talking about this fight is because it is a high-level fight, but for some reason the books aren't agreeing that it's a high-level, close fight. They've got this line pretty wide at this point here. You're looking at it, it's around minus 1,000 for Nurmagomedov. On the other side, Barcelos is around plus 600. So you're looking at that. That's one part of it. And you're always going to be paying a Nurmagomedov tax on the last name, even if it's Medov as the last name, you're probably going to pay an extra tax and a little bit higher of a price. But with that being said, I mean, Nurmagomedov, he is good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's well-rounded. He's not really using the Khabib kind of things of just one path to victory, utilizing top control, taking the positional route, just looking for submissions. He's pretty well-rounded. I like his kicking game. He has a really nice kicking arsenal, good body kicks, good head kicks, a lot of good things that he does in those spots there too. And if he needs it, he can utilize the grappling, and that's something that I think really makes him extremely dangerous, is that he's good on the feet, he's good on the ground, he's got the wrestling, he's got the jiu-jitsu, he's got the finishing game, a lot of good things that he does do on that spot there. But the fact that this line is so wide, you would think that Barcelos is coming in with one arm and one leg. I mean, this guy is good. He has ability. He is also very, very well-rounded as well. He's got durability. He's good on the feet. He is actually also a third-degree black belt in BJJ, so he has credentials on the ground too. I think really the big part of why this line has really, really kind of widened, one, obviously, the Nurmagomedov last name and how good he is, because obviously credit to him, he should be the favorite in this spot. But his other two losses, I think, are really a lot of people overreacting to it. I mean, Timur Valiev, that was a fight that possibly could have been argued as a draw, a very close fight in certain spots as we're talking about the judging side of things. And then the other side, he came in on short notice against Victor Henry. He looked horrible in that fight. I think a lot of people are really taking a lot away from that he just can't hang. And obviously, the last part that probably pushes this a little bit wider too is he's 36 years old, and in the bantamweight division, that's normally not a good thing. When you start hitting the mid-30s, that's really where things start to tick down a little bit in that division. But I think that this line should really more be lined at around like minus 225, probably somewhere around there. I think that Barcelos has enough to kind of keep it competitive. I think he's going to have some spots of success that are going to shock certain people there. I think he could win a round. I think that it's going to be very close. The steamrolling of Nurmagomedov, I don't see happening. He could absolutely go out there and get the victory, no doubt. He's got the ability, but I think this is a spot where if you're looking for that long shot, if you're looking for a little sprinkle, I think this may be the spot to put a little something on it. I mean, plus 600, I think this fight will be closer than the line indicates.
Great stuff from Kyle Anthony at WagerTalk.com. All of his plays can be found there. Kyle, I believe you have a pack that is up right now on WagerTalk. Matt Kowalis at SportsMemo.com. I'm Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Those are our fights to watch. Now we are going to get into our Parlay Buster, our heads-up fight, and our distance fight. And I have been chosen as the one to go over the Parlay Buster, and this is a fight that we think people are going to put into their parlays that we're just a little bit worried about. Kyle, you basically took the words out of my mouth. I think people are going to put Umar into their parlays, and to be honest, at this price, that's not going to give you much value. That's the first thing. And I don't want to go over all the points you just made, but Barcelos is going to test the gas tank of Umar. And this is going to be a real test for him if Barcelos can keep it on the feet for at least portions of the fight. And we know Barcelos is going to fight him real hard on some of these takedowns, and Umar is going to have to work really hard. I mean, he didn't finish Manes in his last fight. That went to decision. That was 3 rounds. Before that, Umar beat Brian Kelleher in the first round, Morozov in the second round, Gonzalez in the first round. So I don't think he's totally been tested with somebody like Barcelos. He really hasn't fought anybody that's going to be a shifty on the feet. It's going to be tough to bet on Barcelos straight up to win, but don't be surprised if Barcelos can make this fight very, very interesting and can sneak out at least one round. And if it's 1-1 going into the third and Barcelos has more energy than Umar, you're going to be very, very nervous if you have this in a parlay. Kyle did a great job going over how insane the line is. I mean, we're creeping up on that minus 1,000. I would not put this in any of my parlays. Barcelos has a big time advantage in experience. So all signs point to Umar winning, but I certainly would not tie any of my bets to fading Barcelos in this one. Matt, we're going to come to you. We're going to do a heads-up fight. This is anything that is minus 200 or less. So tell us which fighter you're going to focus on as a bet that we can wager on. That's minus 200 or less. And I believe you've got an underdog, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, for this fight, I have Punahele Soriano versus Roman Kopylov. And in this one, I got Kopylov at plus 128. And both fighters come into this bout 9-2 overall, both coming off victories on top of that. And in this matchup, Kopylov will be the taller fighter, standing at 6 foot in comparison to Soriano at a 5'10", and he'll also have a 3-inch reach advantage. And I believe this will be key due to the fact that I personally believe that Roman Kopylov is the better stand-up striker in this bout. You know, when looking at Punahele Soriano, he's a solid striker. He's a little bit shorter. He's more powerful, but he tends to come out fast in the first round and maybe in the early second. And personally, I believe Kopylov is going to be expecting that and will be ready for that. When it comes to Soriano, however, his glaring weakness as of late has been his takedown defense, which is somewhat surprising because I believe he's a D3 champion wrestler. And in his last 2 bouts, he's been taken down a combined 13 times. One against Nick Maximov, which he was taken down 11 times, and he ended up losing that fight, probably because of it. But Soriano does hold a lot of power in his hands. Once again, a lot of it comes from the first round. And to me, that's why I believe Kopylov is the play. You know, Kopylov has a background in kickboxing. He's a skilled kickboxer, a very skilled striker on top of that. And then he's also in Russian wrestling camps. So I think that's something that he's very used to on top of that. So if Soriano tries to mix in the wrestling, he's going to be prepared for it. And then on top of that, you know, being in those Russian wrestling camps, he might go on the offensive side on top of that. When you see a weakness like Soriano, who's been taken down 13 times in his past 2 fights, you know, sometimes you get a mix in style. You get a mix in strategy. And that could be something that I personally see as somewhat kind of maybe even like a sneak attack to Soriano. You know, it's something he's not expecting. And on top of that, I give the striking advantage to Kopylov. I think he's a very tough fighter. He's probably no, I wouldn't say more powerful because Soriano definitely has the power in his hands as well, but he has been known to fade as the fight goes on. Also with Soriano, he has not been successful as the favorite on top of that. He's 1-2 in the UFC as the favorite, and I believe has a very tough opponent here once again in Roman, and I believe it's a really good underdog spot for a fighter who is just coming off a knockout victory. He's starting to get his feet under him within the UFC, and a lot of people have a bright outlook for Roman Kopylov within the UFC, and I think this is one of those fights that could help to propel him to the next level, getting an underdog victory against someone like Soriano. So for me, I'm going Roman Kopylov as the underdog play at plus 128.
Love it. Great analysis, Matt, on an underdog. I mean, we're asking for minus 200 or better. You're giving us an underdog. So great analysis there. Take a look at Kopylov at plus 128. Kyle, coming to you. Distance fight. You can pick a fight that is going to go the distance or not going to go the distance. What did you decide, and what fight are we going to focus on here?
The fight I'm going to be talking about here is Matheus Rebecki versus Nick Fury. And this is a spot here where I do like the under here. And a lot of times when you're looking at a spot for an under, there's a couple different things you're looking at. Obviously, you're looking at data and all these other things. But really the big thing optically is that you're looking for is the willingness for opponent to aggressively engage. And on the other side of that is you need inefficiencies defensively. And normally that's going to spell violence. Sometimes that number, you know, these things are baked into the price already. Sometimes they're not. And in this spot here, I really think that it's not. I think this line is off. If you look at it here, the under 1.5 is minus 120. And I'm going to kind of talk about a couple reasons why. And I think it does stick out as a good spot to place a wager here. And the first thing here is I think both these guys are willing dance partners. If you look at what they've done overall, both of these guys are finishers. They are looking to aggressively move forward here. And if you look at Matheus, I mean, I think this guy is the real deal. I really like what I see. He's just kind of getting, you know, into where it comes into the UFC. Went on Dana White's Contender Series, won there in the first round too. He's 16-1. Out of those 16 wins, he's got 14 finishes, 8 knockouts, 6 submissions. Out of those 14 victories by finish, 9 were in the first round. So this is a guy that's willing to go out there and really look to engage. He's the kind of guy that has good wrestling, has good grappling, will look to utilize all of those tools, as well as he throws heat in his hands. He's the kind of guy that's going to put a lot behind all of his shots. Even when he's looking to basically move forward, he utilizes a lot of his striking to cut distance. He throws a big overhand right. A lot of times that overhand right either can land, cause some damage. If not, he kind of rolls it into a double leg. He kind of throws everything behind it, sells out on the big shot, and then latches on and looks for those takedowns. That's kind of the way he's had success. And on the other side here, Fury, he's 6-0, and all of them have come in the first round. Every single one has come in the first round. But if you kind of peel back a little bit suspect here on some of the things that he's done. If you look at it, he's got 6 victories. Somehow, some way, he fought the same guy in his first 2 professional fights, only 6 months apart. One of them, or both of them, was against the legendary Jay Ellis. Now, I don't know if you guys know who this guy is. If you look him up, Jay Ellis has 16 wins and 106 losses. Yes, 106 losses. And somehow Nick Fury got the rematch that nobody wanted, and he ended up fighting this guy 2 times in his first 2 fights. Kind of crazy, but he goes out there, he wins those 2. But if you look at some of the other guys he faced, the next 4 guys, here are the records. A 3-9 guy, a 5-19 guy, an 8-4, and a 15-13. So he is not fighting anybody high level by any means. A lot of times when that's happening at any circumstance in MMA, the coaching staff or his team does not believe in their fighter. They want him to fight lower level guys. They don't believe that he can step up to the plate. Here in this spot, he is a willing dance partner. It looks like he's the kind of guy that's willing to at least engage. And the issue about the way he engages is the fact that he's a grappler. He's the kind of guy that's going to look to grapple. That is exactly where Matheus wants to be. He wants to be on the floor grappling. He's aggressively going to be looking for these takedowns, aggressively going to be looking for the finish here. So I think this under is a great spot. I think under 1.5 minus 120 is a good spot. I think the likelihood's there. I think this fight can definitely end in that first round. And I think everything says that Matheus has all of the weapons to get this job done in that first round.
Yeah, Matheus Rebecki, inside the distance was one of my biggest bets in Contender Series. And yeah, you casually glossed over Jay Ellis. This guy fought 13 times in 2021 and then 7 times in 2022, and he won 1.
But how do you fight the same guy twice? Like, he starts his career in 2019, beats him, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going to take this guy in again. Like that, it's crazy that his team would even be okay, like would want that. It just shows that he's a bum, and I think this is a kill spot for Matheus right here.
You think he has a team? there's no team. There's no Jay Ellis team.
His aerobic instructor who's teaching him how to throw a punch is like, dude, fight Jay Ellis again. You want Jay Ellis again.
This guy gets paid to go out and get knocked out in the first round, 16 and 106. Legendary Crazy. Jay Ellis. Congratulations on the career. Oh man, yeah, Jay Ellis. All right, let's do a little recap here on the Parlay Buster, on our heads up play and our fight to not go the distance for the Parlay Buster. I'm a little worried about laying that much juice on Umar Nurmagomedov against Ione Barcelos. Think that fight should be pretty close. I'd be scared to put that in my parlays. Matt likes the underdog on Roman Kopylov at plus 128. Go ahead and lock that in for a nice little payday. And then Kyle likes Matheus Rebecki over Nick Fiore to go under, and we're getting a really, really nice price on under 1.5 rounds in that one. So, Matt, real quick, tell everyone where we can find you and what you got going on this weekend.
Yeah, so find me over at sportsmemo.com. I have 1 play loaded for UFC Fight Night. I definitely will be adding another. And if you're in the NBA, I release NBA plays every single day, focus on a lot of player props. And then NFL this weekend, definitely going to have some playoff stuff up. Already have a play for the Cincinnati Bengals and Baltimore Ravens. And one last thing, just want to say it's great to be back on the Inside the Distance show. And everyone who is tuning in to the NBA Triple Double, all the other shows, and I got this question a lot, me and Kyle are not brothers. We just somehow get somewhat similar, and we're on the same show, but we are not brothers, okay? I just needed to confirm that. I got that question a lot.
Wow, I didn't.
Do you look? If you look like me, you got to be. That's lucky. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Wow.
That's a good thing. It's a good day. It's a good day, man. It's a good day.
I got that at least 5 times in the NBA show. I swear to God.
That's so
I didn't know that was a thing. It's so awesome. It's so
I'll like glaze over at the comment sections and I'll be like, this question again?
amazing. Let's go to not your brother, Kyle. Tell everyone where we can find you and what do you got going on this weekend?
You can find me at WagerTalk.com. I have a 4% best bet play that is up right now. I'm going to have a pack. I have 3 up right now. I'm looking at a 4th that I want to add to the pack here. It was a great year last year. Number 1 return on investment capper at WagerTalk. I am happy, but I got to keep that going. Another year of profit over the last 3 years, up over 100 units. So we got to keep it going. We win some, we lose some, but we just keep going, right? And as my brother always said, you got to be in to win it.
Oh, great stuff. I've got one 4% play up at WagerTalk.com. I got a 5% NFL play up. Those have been money this season, 17-8 on those. So really, really good money makers for those. Grab all of those at WagerTalk.com. Really excited to get UFC back and running. Finish the year on a 5-1 run in there. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. UFC is back. We will be here every Wednesday evening to break down the UFC cards. That is Matt Kowalis from SportsMemo.com, Kyle Anthony from WagerTalk.com. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Good luck. Let's have a profitable weekend, and we will see everyone next week on Inside the Distance.
College football is over, the NFL is winding down, and as we turn our attention to the ice and hardwood until Sunday, January 22nd, we are slashing NBA, college basketball, and NHL season passes from $4.59 all the way down to $2.99 with no coupon needed. This special price locks in your favorite handicappers in the sport of your choice through the championship for pennies on the dollar versus buying daily packages. And since the price will remain $2.99 through midnight on January 22nd, the earlier you buy, the more days you get included at no additional cost. How much are you saving? College basketball comes to just $3.55 per day through March Madness, and the NBA and NHL discounts come out to just under $60 per month to lock in your favorite handicapper through the finals or Stanley Cup. Go to your favorite handicappers page at WagerTalk and or Sports Memo and lock in your sports through the championship for only $2.99 each. If you want to combine handicappers or multiple sports, email us and we can work out an even more significant discount for you.